Welcome to episode 11 of Simon Says. This episode is all about cutting and styling. We've got 3 models, we've got varying lengths. I always put a commercial spin on things because I want to use these looks into the salon as I do every day. Leyton House is the product. We're going to get that into their hair and make some beautiful makeovers. Our first model is Casey. Casey's got fine hair, but lots of it. So I love cutting and styling hair like this because it responds really well to adding texture. What we want to do is cut a lob territory. I always talk about the territory with the client. I don't want to say we're going here, we're going there. It's around here and we feel it out as we go. So I'm going to cut it quite blunt and then we're going to add some layers to give it some texture. And then I'm going to finish off with a tong. So we'll talk about when we get inside what products are going to enhance that look. So because the product story is really important. It is going to help build the haircut and then they're taking that home and they can recreate that style, which is really important. So can't wait to get into this hair. We're going to cut some off, which is always a hairdresser's dream. So let's get in and get going. Before I cut anyone's hair in the salon, I put a product in the hair to assist the end result. So control cream is my product of choice. So what that is going to do is get my parts nice and straight. It just gives the hair a little bit of weight. And then as it dries, it helps control the hair. So when I'm blow drying, that product's in there, but when I'm cutting, it does assist me in nice straight partings and keeps the hair drying at the same rate as well. I don't want the hair sort of fluffy down here and then it's wet up here. So it's really important to get a bit of product on. So what I tend to do is get a little bit of product on every hair. So what we do is put on like a hand cream, and then we're going to start from ponytail down. And then up here, really working it into the hair, and then I'll comb it through. That ensures that it's a little bit on every hair, not a lot on some. Really important. Let's talk about how important it is to get great sections in haircut. Really clean sections will end up with a clean result. You don't get lost in the woods. So plan your haircut with a section pattern. If you come around, we'll have a look at how this is a basic 1-layer haircut at this point, and then we're going to bust it up with a little bit of technique. So part right down the middle, and then a slightly diagonal forward parting to the front hairline. So we're going to work all the way through like that, and that angle is going to stay the same all the way through. It's how you make a haircut. So what we're going to do is wide teeth of the comb. I'm going to push the hair back into the comb like this. I'm going to rest it on our little cutting collar there. So I've got a nice rigid straight line and I'm going to cut that in. And then I'm just going to follow that format all the way through. And then what I'm going to do is cut it all behind the back here. I'm going to just pull the head around to the side as I come to these side sections and cut into that line. Now what that will do is increase the length slightly when I move toward the front. And then, as I said, we'll bust it up with some layering. When I section this section, I use the wide teeth of the comb. The comb stays on the scalp all the way through, and I'm going to meet my finger underneath there, and that will get me a straight section every time. I don't have to take 2 goes at it. So I like to section with the comb, not the clip. So pick the hair up with the scissors, push it into the back of the comb so I have a bit of tension, and I come down to that guideline. You just see it through there now. Remember that the comb hand is really rigid. That keeps the comb straight, and I'm leaning against the cutting collar. See a nice solid line I'm forming here, and that's all I want to do is get a nice solid line to start, and then I can break it all up. Head position when you're cutting hair is, it's important to the end result. So what we want to do at the back, we put the chin forward. And as we come to these side sections that we've just started, what we're going to do is turn the head at a 45-degree angle, upright a little bit, and that hair is going to be addressed behind the shoulder because the shoulder gets in the way here. So rather than cutting a little bit at the back and a little bit forward, we're going to just move the head position each side, come down. Again, I'm using the wide teeth of the comb, so it's medium tension. I'm feeding the hair into the comb with the scissors. And then what I'm going to do is just cut that continual line there. So the hair's not traveling anywhere. I'm not over directing it back. It's just head position is causing that. What that will do is increase the length as we move toward the front, which is what I want to do ever so slightly. And on the other side, we do the exact opposite. We go at 45-degree, slightly forward. And you've got to have a really good memory of that. You don't want to get that head moving in different directions. You'll get a really irregular line. So the first part of this haircut is all about the rules, you know. We've got to have rules, and we've got to have like a skeleton, you know. That's got to be the bones of the haircut. And then what we want to do later is, once we've got that shape and that line in, we're going to bust it up and be a lot freer. So you've got to be a mix of both. You've got to have that discipline, and then you can be the creative hairdresser that you are and get in there and personalize that haircut for the client. Put your stamp on it. So we finished the classic part of the haircut, which is one length. We just did that little head position thing that changes it up a little bit. So over at 45-degree for each side, and then that line then ends up slightly longer at the front. So it's a really simple technique to get that result. What we want to do now is add a little bit of layering, and I'm going to go in, instead of classically cutting now, I'm going to come in and start point cutting and just break this up. And then we'll slide cut it out, and then we'll get the tong in and get some texture. So it's quite simple, but I think they're the things that just make this a one-length haircut that could be just a bit triangular. It's just going to soften that up and break that up a little bit, which I think is really important. And that details your haircut, that keeps that client coming back to you because you're offering them that little point of difference. So backward diagonal sections, I'm going to pull everything forward, and I'm just going to take the corner off, and I'll show you where that is, that corner. So all in one section. From the bottom to the top, you see that corner there? I'm just going to take that off. And you see what that does? Just takes that corner, that triangular bit off. Really cool little technique, simple. Before I take my next section, you can see now that we've just taken that corner off and it's given it this shape, but ever so subtle. I don't want to bring it up because that'll layer it too much. It's all about this, and then we just want to bevel it off a little bit. So all the layers will come forward onto that, and we're going to take that point off, which will just be here, this section, so that's slightly layering it. When you push it back, it'll just flow in really nicely. So same section, backward diagonal, and then we move on to that first section. Stay in your middle part. And you'll see the guide underneath. If you flip it up, and then I just really roughly point cut that in, and it is quite rustic. It's not about being a neat freak at this point. And it just follows on. So the higher you hold your hand here, the softer the result will be. If I come down low, I'm going to get a harder result onto the face. So I want it quite soft, so I'm elevating it up a little bit. You can see that shape building through there now. Okay, all I've got left is to knock the point off the top. And again, you'll see it. It's like a dot to dot, you know? You sort of see the graduation we've already cut in, and I'm just going to take that point off. What that will do is slightly layer the hair, ever so slightly. And again, I want to just cut it in with a deep point cut. So I'm coming in at quite an acute angle. I don't want to be flat like this, or like this with my elbow up. Turn your hand upside down and just point cut like a picket fence. You want it to be like this. So there's still technique there. You're not just chippy choppy and having this fun time. There's technique there. So horizontal sections, quite big. It's not time for a little finesse, fine sort of a section. I want to do something a little bit thicker and pick it up as one. I can see it then. So take the corners off here. They're already cut into these layers. And I'm just going to project that back onto that previously cut section. So it increases the length at the front slightly. I don't want to take off all the shape that I've just cut in. I like to pull that back to me. So the back of the section stands straight up and then it comes back to that point. So don't push your hands forward because the head rounds away. So we're increasing the length as we move toward the front. So we'll end up with nothing left in the next section. See, it's just very little now. And then we just point cut that off. So we've still got a bit of haircut to do in the slicing out and the finishing of the haircut, but I want to do that dry. So what I'm going to do is wrap the hair dry. So wrap it back this way, I'll come back over and wrap it back the other way. So what that does is lifts it up at the roots, gives the hair a bit of polish, and then we'll bring our tong in and finish the hair off. Really good preparation. Remember, I've got control cream in there and that's enough. It's going to protect it against the heat and it's also going to help me control the hair. So hairdryer on high, and literally just wrapping the hair around the head. So my haircut is pretty complete. I just want to personalise it now. When I use the word personalise, it's working to that face shape and the client's hair. So what I'm going to do is personalise the hair, break it up, take a bit of the weight out, but the bones of the haircut are there. So that's the thing that's going to have it coming back in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, still looking in shape. And all of this will do is work with the client's face shape, hair type, and personalise this haircut to them. So I think that this is the element that we need to get right, and it's sort of something that I can't say, hold your hand like this and do it. I can show you a bit of that, but you've got to feel it out and maybe get onto a head block and slice some hair out and see how it feels. And know when to stop. I think it's a really important thing to be able to stop cutting hair. And it's something when I was younger, I just did too much of it, and it actually didn't do the haircut any justice. It probably ruined it. So I hold the hair out like this. I'm really tight with these fingers. They're slightly bent. What that does is fans the hair out. I want to feed it into the scissors, so I don't want to chase it, yeah? So we come out down like that, and I close my scissors slightly as I move through the hair, slicing it out. And that's for that last third of the haircut. So it's going to take a little bit of that bulk out. It's going to soften all this out and add to the texture. Like a haircut, I move back to the previously cut section. This is just to make it safe. As the hair goes toward the front hairline, it gets finer. So I want to just ensure that I'm not taking too much hair out of there. So I just project it back. Slightly bent fingers again. Feed the hair into the scissors. You can see already that just softens that area up. Not as much hair out of that last section. I can personalise that by just sliding that out like that. So we're going to get the tong involved now. This is quite a large tong. I like to just give the hair a bit of texture. So what we're going to do is set it really vertically, really loosely. So just coming around like that, and then I hold the ends out for a second, and then I just fold them around. I use the glove for this reason, that, you know, it wouldn't be safe if I didn't. But I do that and then hold that, count to 10. And just release and let that just fall. So it's really soft. What I'm going to do later is just break that up, and I'm going to get some product involved. So volume spritz, and that's just going to go in the hair. I'm going to follow it with the blow dryer, and that will break it up and make it look lived in rather than set hair. So I want it to look real. So, you know, you've got to put the structure in first and then you break it all up. So with this front section, I want to just make sure that each side is even. So I don't do one side and then the other. well, I do one side then the other. I don't finish one side and then come to the other side. I make sure that I come around and do the 2 front pieces and make sure that I've just got them sitting nice and evenly, so that bend is in a similar spot or exactly the same spot, and then we work back from there. You know, you talk about it being rustic and lived in, but it's still got to have a lot of structure, and that is one of them. So I'll work from front hairline back at this top section. So all I've got left is this section here. I'm just going to work backwards to the back point. Quite big sections, but really disciplined. You know, you can't just sort of do willy-nilly. You've got to go in there and hold it tight. Make sure you're doing your technique right. And you've got a longer cord maybe. And I don't mind if one goes back and one goes forward. I don't have rules on that. A lot of hairdressers have this, it's got to go back, it's got to do this. I think it's all right to have a little bit of randomness with that. So one forward, one back, you know, and you get this little S bend. Volumizing spritz. What we're going to do with this is break the rules. So this usually would be something that we'd spray into the hair to create volume, smells fantastic, and we'd blow dry it in. Today what I'm going to do is spray it and I'm going to dry it into the hair. So the hair's already styled, remember. So low blow dryer, I don't want to go too crazy, and then just spray and then feed through like that. Yeah, so what that is going to do is just set on the hair and break it up a little bit. So it's a wet spray. I'm using it as a sort of like a dry spray, I guess. By using the blow dry, it dries it instantly. Smells fantastic, so it sells itself. You spray that around a client, they're gonna buy it. What is that? You don't even have to say a word. So I don't want to really brush this out, but I don't want to leave it in its curls either. So I just want to shake this out. Finishing touches is powder power, and that is going to give me a matte finish, which is what I want, because I want it lived in looking. Great application, rather than putting on your hand or sprinkling in and getting too much. It's in a powder puff form, so we just puff it onto the hair. And then let that just sink in, you know, rather than being too direct with it. And that's what I do like about it. It's a little bit gentler than some other powders. It'll give the hair great hold. It's sort of like the idea of having a hairspray, but it's not setting the hair, it's still malleable. And we can move it around, the client can touch the hair, and it's not sort of like a rock. Love it. And it's got a great application, men, women, I think anyone can use this. So here's our finished result with Casey. Really beautiful, beautiful model. That does help our cause. But remember what we did, we cut a one length line in, the hair was quite long. That was quite classic, slightly longer at the front. Layered up very slightly, working around the face with those layers. And then we added some texture with the wand, and that gives it this unkept look, but I think it's beautiful. It looks lived in. We've got a light wind machine outside today, so it sort of is flowing around quite nicely. But if you turn around, we can just see the shape through the back, the ever so slight layering through there, which I think just adds to it, takes that triangular shape off and just bevels those edges. But beautiful, but I think the feature is these little soft layers around the face, and then using the tong to enhance those and get that little bit of bend. Great for a night out or even just work, or you could put it up as well and it has that texture. So thanks for watching. Another haircut coming at you.